I was 32 when I inherited my uncle's old pager, a peculiar relic from a time when communication relied on technology that seemed primitive by today's standards. The edges were worn, and its once bright teal case had faded to a dull shade, nestled among a dusty box of his belongings in the attic. I remember the first time I held that pager in my hands, a wave of nostalgia crashing over me. My uncle had been a doctor, an emergency physician who often shared stories that straddled the line between horror and heroism. Each tale came alive in my mind as I gazed at this small device that had been a lifeline in crisis situations. The pager had 10 stored numeric codes, each associated with specific emergencies he'd faced, the codes that had once dictated life or death decisions. I recalled the urgency in his voice when he recounted the chaos of late-night calls, the desperate rush of racing against time. The memories loomed large, filling my mind with a mixture of fondness and a creeping apprehension. As I thumbed through the stored codes, the comfort I found in their familiarity began to slip away. The last code sent an inexplicable shiver down my spine. It was nothing more than a number, yet I felt an unsettling connection to it, as if it held a significance I couldn't quite grasp. It was a relic of a different era, 1999, a time marked by pre-internet simplicity, where pagers served as our lifelines to the outside world. My uncle's career as a doctor had been filled with adrenaline and chaos, a world where every beep could signify a new emergency. I'd often listened to his stories, feeling heroic by association. Each code he kept was a part of that world, each holding a memory of some life saved or a misstep that nearly cost someone everything. I activated the first couple of codes, each unlocking a set of distinct recollections that made me feel deeply connected to that time and to my uncle. The memories they evoked were normal, comforting, but when I reached the last code, everything began to feel wrong. I felt a connection with those memories until I reached the last code. The nostalgia I felt twisted into something dark and foreboding. What could it mean? What was it forecasting? The air shifted in the attic, thick with unspoken words, and I knew I had to go deeper into this puzzle. I immersed myself in the recollection of my uncle's life. He had often described the adrenaline rush of his profession, his stories painting him as a hero of sorts, a figure who triumphed over chaos. The culture of 1999 was nostalgic, a time of reliable technology that lacked the instantaneous nature of today. The codes represented common emergencies. The first few unlocked memories of mundane medical cases, heart attacks, slips, and falls. They anchored me in a time where chaos felt contained, predictable. The excitement of those memories was palpable. They wrapped around me like a warm hug from my past. I closed my eyes, recalling the shift of my uncle's pager in his pocket, the familiar sound of it alerting him to another crisis. But that comfort was short-lived. As I scanned the remaining codes, anticipation turned to dread. The realization struck me hardest when I reached the last code. If you want to hear more stories about odd vintage technology, subscribe to the channel. Because what I found in my uncle's pager changed everything I thought I knew about time. Finally, I gathered the courage to activate the last code. It flashed on the tiny screen. The numbers danced in a way that didn't feel right. I stared in disbelief as the display transformed, revealing a series of complex details that sent confusing ripples through my mind. One particular detail jumped out. A date tied to an emergency that was impossible given the pager's history. I felt a twist in my gut. I tried to rationalize it, but my mind was racing. As I researched the pager online, I found myself trapped in a rabbit hole of histories about devices just like it, their intended functions and associations, but nothing about the contours of time it seemed to encompass. Each click on the keyboard stirred feelings of disorientation. This first code began to spin webs of implications that tangled around my thoughts, forming knots of growing fear. There was something heavier resting in its depths, and the unsettling truth was growing undeniable. The anomaly wasn't just a glitch. It was something more sinister. I thought it was just a mistake, but the next code would make everything worse. After that fateful moment, I didn't just see the codes, I felt them, each one a thread pulling on the fabric of my reality. With every code I documented, I compiled a spreadsheet mapping the bizarre discrepancies. My fingers trembled as I typed out observations, trying to quantify the impossible. The anomaly deepened with each entry, coiling tighter around my mind. The connections began forming a terrifying pattern, referencing events that hadn't happened yet, shadows of the future lurking just beneath the surface. I consulted a friend, hoping for some grounding perspective. When I revealed the pager's secrets, they expressed disbelief, but there was a glimmer of curiosity in their eyes, a shared willingness to explore what felt like madness. I knew deep down, however, that we were skirting the edges of something unfathomable. I felt the sensation of paranoia creep in, intertwining with memories that blurred past and future. There was something tied to my life that I couldn't ignore, and it terrified me. But the reality truly sank in when the codes began evolving from mere warnings to evident truths. I opened the final code on my spreadsheet, heart racing. The cold light of the screen revealed a precise date, an echo from the future tied to the destruction of my own house. The revelation sank in like a stone in my stomach, and a chill washed over me. I wasn't just reading, I was receiving a warning about my fate. The digital clock on my desk ticked in beat to my rising panic. Despite all logic screaming at me to shove the pager into the recesses of my mind where these issues couldn't reach, I had to cross-check this newfound information. If this investigation helped you understand strange experiences, hit that thanks button below. It really supports my continued investigation into these anomalies. Days turned into an agonizing loop of dread as I dove deeper into the rabbit hole of temporal paradoxes and the impossible. The implications of these discoveries were staggering. How could my uncle's pager, an object anchored in the past, contain this crisis from my future? I consulted physicists, hoping for clarity, only to be met with vague reassurances and theories that danced around the edges of possibility without concrete answers. This left me grappling with the terrifying truth. Ordinary rules of time may not apply. Want to hear more stories that are too disturbing to share publicly? Become a channel member to explore deeper into these phenomena. The feeling of dread settled over me in an oppressive wave. I began to notice how the impossible details connected with intersecting events around me, shaping the present with undertones of past nightmares. A news report echoed on the screen before me, one that mirrored a coded warning from the pager I diligently documented, a reflection of my life projected into the chaos of my world. A memory stung through me like a bolt of lightning. My uncle's hidden journals leaked scraps of wisdom, seeming warnings about events he had foreseen. As I studied them, paralyzed by the impossibility of it, I felt the ice of fear creeping up my spine. These codes were not just warnings, they were instructions, guiding me toward impending disaster. I remembered feeling observed, a sensation that crept into my skin like ants marching up my spine. The awareness that my next steps were scrutinized by unseen eyes intensified, weighing heavily on my thoughts. I came to the unsettling realization that the codes were not just warnings, they were instructions. My journey then spiraled into desperate efforts to alter the course of fate. Armed with knowledge from the pager, I alerted my family, hurriedly preparing to potentially avert disaster. But my attempts to defy fate unraveled in ways I couldn't have foreseen. Each action seemed to entwine me further within a fragile network of events, spiraling towards conclusions I had no hope of controlling. The process felt surreal, preordained, as if I were merely an actor in a play scripted long before I took the stage. That's when I realized I was not just fighting against time. I was a part of it. In moments of despair, I felt the grand design of my existence pressing down hard on my shoulders, leaving me with the incisive agony of choice. Was I meant to change the outcome or simply witness it unfold? If these revelations have changed how you see time and memory, click the thanks button. Your support keeps this research alive. With each attempted intervention, I observed future events unfurling like ribbons of fate, distorting my grasp on reality until I felt dislocated from myself. The beauty of memories intertwined with the grotesque specter of what lay ahead, creating a haunting fog of existential dread. Ultimately, the truth emerged, layering itself intricately through the fabric of my experience. It was then that I discovered why my uncle had held on to this pager and its codes. He had steered himself through lives haunted by the very events he had documented. The cyclical nature of what I had encountered in those codes became undeniable as I found myself facing the anguish of an impending disaster tied both to me and to him. The initial moments of catharsis soon crumbled into overwhelming questions. I examined the choices I had made within this tapestry, wondering if they had led me to this very moment of revelation. I still have my uncle's pager, and sometimes disturbing new codes appear. My reflections often draw me back to that final code, still alive with the weight of repetition and dread whispers of fate echoing the uncertainty of existence. If you're drawn into this experience, the complete analysis of every anomaly linked to vintage technology is in my ebook.
This narrative is more than just a personal study. It's an exploration of time and memory itself, lingering like shadows in the corners of my reality. Last week, a new number appeared on the pager, an unsettling future date, one I'd yet to decipher. I checked the pager one last time this morning. New codes were waiting, reminders that this cycle wasn't over. And as I walked away, I knew, if you discover something like this, tread carefully. The last code could change everything. I was in my attic, sifting through boxes filled with memories of my late uncle's life. It was a dusty, quiet sanctuary where time felt suspended, until I stumbled upon something that would shake me to my very core. Nestled under old newspapers and brittle magazines was my uncle's old pager, a relic from a simpler era, its faded teal body whispering secrets of stories long past. As I picked it up, the weight of the pager felt heavy in my palm. I held it gently, careful not to break its time-worn casing. It was a remnant of my uncle's life as an emergency doctor, a device that had relayed urgent messages in moments of crisis. The buttons, once so lively and responsive, now felt stiff beneath my fingers. The screen blinked to life with remnants of code. My heart raced as if it recognized the significance of this find, while my mind teetered on nostalgia and unease. I remembered the tales my uncle had spun about his experiences. The brilliant flashes of adrenaline, the chaos of emergencies fought with calm precision. As a child, I had listened wide-eyed, feeling almost heroic by association. Each life he saved created ripples of warmth, a comforting glow of familiarity. Now, the pager was a tangible link to that past, bringing forth memories tinged with an unsettling mix of fondness and apprehension. The pager stored 10 numeric codes, my uncle's lifelines amidst emergencies. I could vividly recall how he described each one. Codes that related to heart attacks, car accidents, the frantic calls that whisked him away from family dinners. It was a badge of honor for him, a profound trust placed in those simple numbers. As I unlocked the first few codes, a dab of sweetness filled my chest, gently wrapping around my heart like a well-worn quilt of memories. But then came the last code. As I scrolled closer, it filled me with inexplicable dread. It felt different, like an ominous pulse echoing through my fingers, beckoning me to pay attention. I tentatively pressed on it, a whisper of tension hanging in the air, and with that innocent movement, the screen transformed, revealing a date tied to an emergency that had no place in my uncle's past. It bypassed my understanding of time altogether, interweaving threads of reality with fragments of something that floated just beyond my grasp. An unsettling twist clawed at my gut, and I was pushed back into a spiral of disbelief. My mind raced, seeking a rational explanation as my usual logical constructs began to unravel. My uncle was gone, and this object, now in my possession, had not only become a keeper of memories, but a portal to uncharted territories, both past and future. In a rush of curiosity tinged with dread, I found myself overwhelmed with the need to know more.
I began researching the pager online, combing through the vastness of digital archives, hoping to find some semblance of clarity. Yet every click led me down rabbit holes that only deepened my confusion. There were histories about similar devices, their intended functions, and how they facilitated urgent communication in desperate moments, but nothing prepared me for the reality of what this particular pager seemed to hold. In my investigation, I started documenting everything, my fingers flying across the keyboard, composing a spreadsheet of strange occurrences tied to each code. But with every entry, the anomaly I dared not dismiss coiled tighter around my mind, building a web of implications that wrapped around my thoughts. The codes were more than lifelines. They were threads sewn into a larger tapestry of fate. The haunting sense of innate knowledge spilled over into my daily life, and paranoia crept into my bones like an unwelcome chill. The realization hit hard. The last code spoke of something I couldn't fully comprehend, something entangled in the fabric of my own future. Comment below, have you ever found something that seemed eerily prophetic? I want to know I'm not alone in this. The attic grew darker, shadows creeping along as I continued to hold the pager tightly, my breath hitching. I wondered if this journey through memories and time would lead me to something devastating. I searched for validation, acknowledging the fear mingling with excitement. The lines between past and present blurred as the urgency of this discovery settled heavily around my shoulders. This was not merely about the pager. It was about what truths it would unravel, waiting to expose the very nature of time itself. As I delved deeper into the memories triggered by the pager, reflections of my uncle's life as an emergency doctor began to unfold in vivid detail. His career was intricately linked to 1999, a time before smartphones dominated our lives, defined instead by the trusty pager, a lifeline in moments of crisis. It wasn't just a device, it was a testament to an era where urgency meant something more tangible. I vividly recalled how he would regale me with stories of his work, his eyes gleaming with purpose. He spoke of chaos, of raucous hospital corridors where every second counted. The adrenaline surging through him was palpable as he narrated heroic rescues, relaying calls of desperation that often whisked him away from family dinners to save lives. Listening to those tales as a child, I had always felt a profound sense of admiration for him. Each of the 10 numeric codes stored within the pager symbolized a lifeline amidst the frenetic pace of emergency medicine. My uncle had described these codes as gateways to essential responses, heart attacks, car crashes, crises that demanded immediate action. They were more than just numbers. They were reminders of lives impacted, harrowing journeys juxtaposed against the backdrop of everyday life. As I unlocked the first few codes, flashes of nostalgia enveloped me, binding together memories of my uncle's extraordinary life with my own mundane experiences of childhood wonder. But then there was the last code. As I scrolled lower, an ominous sensation gripped me, and a feeling of dread began to creep through my veins. This final entry pulsed with an unsettling energy, demanding my immediate attention. Tentatively, I pressed it, and as the darkness receded, the pager revealed an emergency date that had no place in my uncle's past. This was a breach of time itself, a collision of destinies that left me grappling for understanding. In disbelief, I felt my mind shatter, torn between past and an unsettling potential future. I was unsure of the implications of this code, slipping deeper into confusion. My uncle was gone, and this relic from his life, now in my hands, had metamorphosed into something profoundly disquieting, a portal connecting uncharted territories of time. Driven by a blend of curiosity and fear, I searched online, hoping to find some clarity within the digital archives. Every click sent me down rabbit holes, uncovering histories about pagers and their significance. Though my search led to countless articles detailing urgent communications in desperate moments, nothing prepared me for the astonishing truth that this pager seemed to hold. I began documenting the findings, fingers racing across the keyboard, desperate to make sense of what I had discovered. The deeper I delved, the more tightly the anomaly coiled around my thoughts. These codes transformed into more than lifelines. They became threads linking to a larger tapestry of fate. The realization hit me with a visceral force. This last code foresaw something I couldn't fully grasp, something entwined with the fabric of my future. Comment below, have you ever found something that seemed eerily prophetic? I want to know I'm not alone in this. The attic grew darker as shadows encroached, tightening their grip around me. Cradling the pager with renewed urgency, I felt the weight of its secrets pressing down upon me. As I journeyed through time's complexities and my uncle's memories, I understood that this was more than just about the pager. It was about unraveling the threads of truth it harbored, truths that could reshape my reality. If you want to hear more stories about odd vintage technology, subscribe to the channel, because what I found in my uncle's pager changed everything I thought I knew about time. I knew the deeper I dug, the more I would unearth potentially heartbreaking revelations that lay ahead, shimmering just out of reach like mirages in a desert of uncertainty. The moment I discovered the last code on my uncle's pager, a foreboding energy enveloped me like a thick fog. Time itself felt like it had shifted, creating an unsettling ripple through the fabric of my reality. I was drawn back to the days when my uncle used to share stories about each code, detailing the adrenaline rush that accompanied every urgent call. How easily those codes had provided him with the chance to save lives, and yet here I was, haunted by a code that threatened to unravel my understanding of time and fate. Panic clawed at my insides as I stared at the screen. Why did this code seem to predict a future that involved me? The date lingered ominously in my mind. It was dated for next month, for an event I had no recollection of, but the weight of its implications was suffocating. Was it merely a glitch in the pager's calculations, or had my uncle somehow foreseen something beyond comprehension? A sharp breath escaped my lips. I quickly opened new tabs on my laptop, filled with web pages detailing not just pagers, but broader themes of temporal anomalies. I felt an overwhelming need to quench the thirst for understanding that had become my fixation. Hours slipped away, and darkness enveloped the attic as I scoured through digital archives, searching for clarity, for answers that might lead me to decipher the cryptic message. Most articles spoke of historical technology and its evolution, the significance of pagers in the medical field, the crucial link between doctor and patient. Yet none offered insight into the temporal distortions I felt creeping in around me. The rabbit holes I fell into resonated with fascinating facts about physics, quantum mechanics, and time travel theories, but refrained from addressing the real mystery at hand. Why my uncle's pager would connect the past to a future that seemed to beckon me with echoes of uncertainty. With my mind racing, I took to pen and paper, jotting down every realization and every concern as they sprang to life. My headaches intensified with every detail I considered. Connecting the dots, I meticulously crafted a spreadsheet. Each of my uncle's coded numbers, each one of his past emergencies, acted as anchors while I positioned the new date amongst them, an ominous shadow looming over the entire list. There were no ordinary responses to the disquiet swirling in the air. My uncle had tracked far more than I could have ever imagined. His methods hiding layers of knowledge that now sought to protect or perhaps condemn me. The more I analyzed these codes, the more intertwined they became with my own past experiences.
weaving a troubling pattern that suggested familiarity in the threads of impending chaos. I realized I had become ensnared within a net of possibilities, each choice I made seemingly leading to outcomes far beyond my control, an intrinsic part of a larger narrative. But then I felt it, a pulse. It resonated through my fingers, a tangible presence, as if each code thrummed with sinister clarity, leaving an inexplicable chill chasing along my spine. I had to do something, anything, to evade the forthcoming shadow looming over me. I tried reaching out to family and friends, desperate to articulate the knot tightening in my throat. However, each conversation brought blank stares, skepticism, and a perceived insanity that clung to my words as if I were drowning in disbelief. How could I expect them to understand the immensity of what I had uncovered, a temporal anomaly wrapped tightly around a seemingly benign tool of my uncle's diagnostic life? Frustration bubbled within me, yet a part of me savored the thrill of the unknown. There was beauty in this chaos. Empowered by unlabeled secrets, I leaned ever closer to the edge of truth. And upon reaching for understanding, I groaned under the knowledge of risk that occupied space within my heart. That is when I recalled the chilling stories of people who had encountered prophecies, objects that seemed to predict their futures. The urgency of my findings demanded to be shared beyond my immediate circle. I needed to let the world know what was happening. If this exploration resonates with you, if you're already feeling chills down your spine, hit that like button. Trust me, you'll want to remember this tale. My resolve hardened. Perhaps I wasn't meant to find answers alone. Maybe there were others out there who had come face to face with the inexplicable. I needed to reach beyond my confines, share my findings, and ignite a discussion that had yet to surface. After all, the code that lingered in my uncle's pager wasn't just a message for me. It might be a cautionary tale for anyone willing to listen, a reminder of how deeply time itself entwines us within its grasp. As I prepared to document my journey, each keystroke seemed like a strategic strike against the darkness. I could feel the suffocating grip of dread loosening over me, light seeping through the cracks of uncertainty. It felt empowering, pushing me closer to uncovering the truth, risking everything to share my story, a narrative birthed from the past, spiraling threateningly towards an uncertain future. The lantern of my revelations flickered, lighting a path towards cryptic possibilities and dark truths alike, waiting just beyond the threshold of the present moment. The deeper I plunged into the enigma surrounding my uncle's pager, the heavier the atmosphere felt, thick with layers of palpable anxiety and potential revelation. Each moment I spent unraveling the delicate threads of time guarded by that device rendered me both exhilarated and terrified. I was standing at the precipice of something monumental, an unseen world where destinies collided and choices reverberated across timelines. After hours of painstaking analysis, my spreadsheet became a visual representation of chaos intertwined with order, a tapestry of events seemingly predestined, but marred by the looming unknown represented by that last code. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd opened Pandora's box, each entry a doorway to potential horror, each line a warning whispering about a fate I now felt inexplicably tethered to. My life was on the verge of intertwining with that ominous date marked by my uncle's antiquated technology. I leaned back in my chair, letting frustration wash over me like a winter chill. How could I turn the tide against a vulnerability I struggled to comprehend? Every instinct told me I was meant to heed this warning, yet the nature of what that meant eluded me, slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. What event awaited me on that date? Would it be catastrophic, a moment that would affect not just me but everyone in my orbit? My heart raced to the rhythm of impending dread drumming in my ears. Desperation hung around me, pricking my skin. I turned those vivid thoughts inward, spiraling towards the notion that perhaps I had already been altered by this knowledge, just as my uncle had been. I recalled his unshakable belief in the patterns he meticulously documented. What if I followed his path? What if I could alter my future after realizing these connections? The possibilities blossomed like wicked flowers in a shadowy garden. Yet still, I couldn't escape the sense of cosmic irony. My uncle had always protected me, but now his pages seemed more like a sinister oracle than a safeguard. As I stared into the screen, I felt an unsettling mix of reverence and trepidation. I was caught in a web of temporal resonance that tied back to moments I had never lived, but were eerily familiar. That's when an idea struck me. Perhaps my first course of action should be to find others who had brushed against the inexplicable. There had to be stories out there, narratives where objects had prophesied outcomes beyond expectation. Maybe I could piece together my uncle's past revelations with echoes of others' experiences, constructing a narrative that could shed light upon this mystery. I composed a post for an online forum dedicated to strange occurrences involving technology, anonymously lending me the courage to seek resonant hearts and minds with similar encounters. As I published the message detailing my own perplexities, I felt a shiver of anticipation rush over me. I watched for replies, hoping to connect with anyone who could open a window into their experiences, adding clarity to my swirling vortex of thoughts. In a compassionate flicker, I found unexpected solace reading comments from others who had shared unnerving discoveries. Stories emerged of unsettling encounters with old-fashioned photographs that seemed to come alive, clocks that issued warnings about future realities, and pieces of technology that whispered fragmented messages and unexplained riddles. Each account resonated with the heart-pounding chaos inside me, igniting a sense of kinship among strangers piecing together the puzzle of existence. As discussions bloomed upon the forum, a sense of community began to form, bridging the gap between isolated experiences and collaborative exploration. One particular comment caught my eye, an individual who described finding an old typewriter in their grandmother's attic. Each page it produced spoke of events that had yet to unfold, with exact dates and detailed scenarios bearing the weight of someone's future, eerily mimicking my experience with the pager. I felt drawn into the narrative, desperate to understand their ultimate fate, yet simultaneously aware of the ominous undertones that resonated throughout their words. But what happens if the future is written, they asked, and every action we take merely fulfills a written script? My heart thudded in my chest. No, I couldn't accept that idea. Somewhere within this tangled structure, I held the power to redefine my path. The idea of a predetermined future sent a shiver down my spine. Yet I felt emboldened by the realization that I wasn't alone in this struggle against forces I couldn't comprehend. My voice reverberated through the threads of the internet, attracting the attention and support of fellow warriors grappling with their own temporal anomalies. Comment below, have you ever faced an unsettling prophecy? I want to hear your stories. Sharing this knowledge might just illuminate a path through our chaotic narratives. Night turned to dawn inside my dimly lit attic sanctuary, illuminated solely by the glow of my screen. Outside, the world awoke, unaware of the storm swirling just beneath the surface of my consciousness. Time had taken on a new significance. The fabric of reality warped under the weight of my discoveries and connections, making the mundane seem miraculous. Each heartbeat echoed with the repercussions of this strange journey, and I felt an unquenchable thirst to engineer a change within the narrative unfolding before me. The code on my uncle's pager was more than a warning. It was a call to arms. I could not merely remain an observer. I was a participant in this strange play, my role intertwined with every choice made and every discovery unearthed. With newfound determination and a community rallying behind me, I steeled myself against what awaited. My story was about to become a catalyst, a revelation carved into the very essence of time as we knew it. The dawn light filtering through the attic window felt surreal as I immersed myself deeper in the enigma of my uncle's pager. Each moment seemed to charge the air with the potential of looming truths, electrifying and terrifying all at once. The device I held was not merely a remnant of my uncle's life. It was the very embodiment of a riddle, a map leading me towards situations where destinies collided and choices reverberated through time. My analysis of the different codes had birthed a sprawling tapestry of potential outcomes. Each entry echoed a fragmented whisper of fate, mingling with the dread of a singular date that threatened to intertwine my reality with uncertainties yet to unfold. My life felt suspended between the past and a future that seemed inevitable, but utterly, horrifyingly unclear. What awaited me on that fateful day? My heart raced with every thought. Would it be catastrophe that echoed through the lives of those I loved? Or perhaps I could intervene, shape the outcome more favorably, as my uncle once did, feverishly charting the courses of lives marked by emergency calls. Fueled by a mix of fear and resolve, I knew I had to take action. As the hours progressed, I found solace within an online forum dedicated to the bizarre. The anonymity it offered fired my sense of purpose. I reached out, sharing my own story, the peculiarities of the pager, the last code ominously linked to a future event, and I felt the gravity of my plea reverberate within those digital walls. My eyes glistened with hope as I published the message, yearning for connection, for understanding. The responses that followed were beyond my expectations. I read of haunting photographs that captured moments that hadn't happened yet, of forgotten clocks that struck warnings for those too stubborn to heed them. Each tale resonated with my own, lighting a blazing path through the obscured shadows in my mind. They were like threads weaving together into a profound fabric, stitching a community of seekers craving answers. One post particularly gripped my attention, a story about an old typewriter found in an attic. Each page it produced contained prophetic words of events that had yet to unfold, with dates and themes that mirrored my experience with the pager. Questions flooded my thoughts. Could we all be trapped in the threads of some predefined narrative? Or was each revelation an opportunity to rewrite our stories? Against the backdrop of tenuous fate, I felt the resolve to challenge the idea that the past dictated my future. I had the power to take control and reshape my path by confronting the very fears that sought to ensnare me. With every piece of shared experience, I was reminded that I wasn't alone in this realm of curiosity and dread. Comment below, I urged in the forum's active discussion. Have you ever faced an unsettling prophecy? I want to hear your stories. Together, we might illuminate a path through our chaotic narratives. As night faded into dawn, I felt a sense of camaraderie bloom around me, infusing the air with a renewed sense of hope amidst the uncertainty. In that moment, the aching weight of expectation transformed into an invigorating call to arms. I realized I could use my experiences, my uncle's pager as a guide, to navigate through the unknown. There was a responsibility I felt towards everyone in this emerging community, an urgency to take proactive steps against whatever ominous fate awaited. As I drafted my thoughts into a concise plan, a familiar pang of anxiety crept up within me. I understood too well the lingering fear of inaction, of letting that future event play out unchecked. I envisioned arranging a gathering among similarly afflicted souls, a roundtable discussion to confront our fears together, to wrest knowledge from the shadows that promised to guide us into illumination. Anchored by inspiration and driven by courage, I shifted my focus back to the forum to share this idea. Let's all join forces, I typed, and face the unknown together.
Let's gather to share insights and chase the truth behind each of our artifacts, confronting fate as empowered agents of our own destinies. And as I reached the conclusion of my post, I felt compelled to connect my personal discoveries back to the wider community, an invocation to summon their strength. If you find value in these explorations, I added earnestly, show support with the thanks button below. Your encouragement fuels this investigation into the truth. Even as the sun ascended into a morning sky, my resolve hardened. I was no longer merely an observer. I had transformed into a participant capable of reshaping my path and beckoning others to do the same. With this community by my side, I felt emboldened to confront the mysteries ahead and alter the course laid out before me. The chapters of my story were waiting, lined with courage and determination, and I would not hesitate to turn the pages. The forum buzzed with activity following my post, responses pouring in as others shared their own stories of temporal enigmas. There was something intensely energizing about this digital gathering. Each new comment felt like a hand reaching out from the shadows, grasping mine in solidarity. The connections we forged were fragile yet powerful, allowing us all to confront our fears collectively. One user detailed a haunting experience with an old family watch, which had started moving backwards right before a significant event. Another recalled a set of old postcards that hinted at moments that had yet to come to pass, chilling, providing dates that matched their life events. Each tale echoed my own, affirming that these bizarre encounters were not simply figments of imagination, but rather manifestations of some deeper, inexplicable connection to time. As I read through these personal accounts, my heart raced with a mixture of anxiety and intrigue. I pondered over the broader implications of our shared experiences. Was there an underlying truth hidden beneath the surface? What if our very perceptions of time were malleable? Each new revelation drew me into the complex labyrinth of understanding, further entwining the fates that seemed to bind us together. Encouraged by this newfound sense of community, I promptly decided to create a space for deeper discussions, a dedicated thread outlining plans for our roundtable gathering, a chance for those of us grappling with the supernatural to share insights in real time. I wanted to create an environment where we could not only swap stories, but also brainstorm potential responses to the prophecies afflicting us. In my draft, I articulated the urgency behind our collective need for awareness, emphasizing the importance of a gathering. Members of this community have faced the unnerving, the inexplicable. We possess insights, fears, and understandings that may unlock paths through our uncertainties. Let's explore these mysteries together, I wrote, my fingers dancing across the keyboard with eagerness. I hesitated, reflecting that this was not merely a meeting. It would be a crucial step towards collective empowerment, a unified front against the unknown. But then it struck me. This gathering could also serve another purpose, enticing others to join our community as members. If you want to dive deeper into these discussions, consider joining our community membership. It felt crucial to encourage participation, not just to amplify our narratives, but also to build a haven where like-minded souls could unearth the truth together, an incubator for exploration, support, and resilience. As the sun rose higher in the sky, the glow illuminating my makeshift workspace, I considered the intertwining paths laid out before us. The gathering would not just allow the exploration of our mysteries, it could transform lives, fostering a sense of belonging amidst the disturbances of time. An excitement raced through me as I hit post and shared the invitation with the forum. The message was more than just a call for discussion. It was a promise, a pledge that together we could forge a path through darkness. The responses were immediate. Users expressed eager interest, their enthusiasm palpable through the screen. Soon, the thread filled with requests for date availability, thoughts on topics, and ideas to explore during our gathering. Just hours later, I found myself overwhelmed with a sense of purpose and direction.
We were collectively building something meaningful, a community that sought answers and connection rather than isolation. Each member would add their unique perspectives, creating a symphony of shared stories swirling around the table like an ethereal dance. But amid this budding chaos, my mind continued to return to the foreboding date encoded within my uncle's pager. A sense of urgency swelled within me, a need to confront the potential reality that awaited. I was reminded that knowledge without action was merely a trap, a reflection of inaction frozen within a moment that demanded tenacity. With the gathering on the horizon, I resolved to delve deeper into preparations. I would carve out time in my own chaotic life to study the history of the artifacts shared by my fellow seekers, dissecting their narratives with fervor. I needed to arm myself with knowledge, readying myself for a confrontation, not just with fate, but with whatever awaited when the future collided with our present. As I glanced up from the screen, my heart pounding, I felt a renewed sense of conviction. I had taken the reins of my own narrative, stepping into a realm where I would challenge the very fabric of time and its implications. Together, we would embark on this exploration, not just an intimate gathering of minds, but a journey into the soul of time itself. And with this unfolding adventure, my life and the lives of those I had yet to meet would twist toward uncharted destinies, reshaping the narratives we thought we knew. However, as I sunk back into preparation, a question lingered in my mind. Were we destined to unlock the truths behind our artifacts, or would we merely end up amplifying the very uncertainties that had tethered us together? I was poised to find out. The day of the gathering arrived with a dawn that didn't just break, it exploded with colors, each hue bathing my attic in an ethereal glow. The energy crackling through the atmosphere was palpable, as though the universe itself was encouraging our newfound quest for truth. I might have felt nervous, but the electric anticipation overshadowed any anxiety lurking in the corner of my mind. This was not just a meeting, it was the beginning of a revolution against fate. As the clock neared our agreed-upon time, I set up the virtual meeting platform I'd chosen for our gathering. Participants from various corners of the country logged in, faces filling the screen with expressions ranging from apprehension to eager curiosity. Each one embodied a fragment of the puzzles we were collectively trying to solve. My heart swelled with a strange sense of kinship as I watched their faces materialize one by one, each individual a unique thread in this intricate tapestry of temporal anomalies. A brief introduction initiated our discussion, each participant sharing their experiences, a symphony of stories that wove together seamlessly, highlighting the uncanny coincidences and eerie foresight embedded in their artifacts. I took notes fervently, my fingers dancing over the keyboard, documenting every chilling detail. The deeper we delved into each tale, the more energy seemed to breathe life into the room, building like an incantation cast against the mysteries we faced. The individual who spoke about the haunted watch revealed that its backward ticking had coincided with the day a dear friend passed away, raising doubts whether they had lost their path in time, a chilling notion that sent shivers down my spine. Another participant mentioned the postcards that had predicted job offers and lost relationships, articulating a sense of hopelessness when they reflected on decisions made in light of those prophecies. I could sense the tension seep into our conversation as we processed the weight of the potential consequences behind our artifacts. As I listened, it became clear to me. These objects did not merely signify omens, they were mirrors reflecting our greatest fears and aspirations. I posed a question to the group. Could we be acting out a cosmic script written by these artifacts? Would we be doomed to follow the patterns woven into our fates, or could we use this gathering to carve our futures anew? The responses from my fellow seekers were impassioned and varied, each person grappling profoundly with the weighty themes we uncovered. With the sun dipping lower, I seized the moment to shift our focus toward action. What if we document our findings? collectively create a resource that details our experiences with these mystical objects, outlining each encounter along with our reflections. An ebook, perhaps, a tangible testament to our journey through the temporal labyrinth. A chorus of nodding heads from virtual faces filled my screen, fueling my excitement. Imagine how impactful this could be. We could share our interpretations and offer insights that might help others connect with their uncertainties. We could shine light in dark spaces where fear resides. Ideas cascaded through the group, each voice echoing the potential velocity of this joint venture. Let's dive into our narratives, share our thoughts, one participant suggested. We can explore not just our journeys, but also the wider implications of our discoveries, how we might share our wisdom with the world, what we could miss if we allow these insights to fade away. The discussion took a fervent turn toward the logistics of documenting our findings. We brainstormed potential chapters we could include, detailing our artifacts' histories, personal interpretations of their strange occurrences, and even collating advice for future seekers who might stumble upon similar enigmas. I felt invigorated as we continued mapping out this project, seeing it transform into a cohesive endeavor that could bridge the disjointed realities we had faced. Encouraged by their enthusiasm, I incrementally mentioned the need for support, a way to finance the production of our ebook, given that we were pouring so much effort into documenting our experiences. If you want to back this project, I proposed with determination, consider joining our membership, providing a monthly contribution that can help us share these profound insights with the world. Your support will fuel this exploration and allow us to create a valuable resource we can all draw upon. As participants logged off, I reflected on the communal energy that had surged throughout our meeting. Each story was a fragment of the larger narrative demanding to be told. Together, we would explore these uncertain waters, navigating the churning seas of reality, armed with the collective wisdom of our experiences. I envisioned our ebook not just as a record of personal testimonies, but as a beacon for others trying to make sense of their inexplicable encounters. Those who'd wandered into the wreckages of time and fate would find solace in knowing they weren't alone, alongside a community fueled by curiosity and a desire to rewrite their narratives. The sun's last rays faded, and my attic fell into shadows. I knew the journey was just beginning, but it was a journey I felt ready to undertake. One thing resonated deeply within me. If I could share my experiences, illuminate the stories of others, and combine them into a singular narrative, then perhaps, in our collective hands, we could wield a power stronger than fate itself. Together, we would rise against the uncertainty that sought to bind us, creating a tapestry of insight that would boundlessly extend into the future. The days following our initial gathering felt electrified with potential, buoyed by the excitement of collective discovery and shared purpose. Every time I logged into the forum, I felt a rush of anticipation as I scrolled through new comments, contributions, and ideas. People were engaging not just with their personal experiences, but also with one another, threading together a web of connection across the chaos of time itself. But amid this exuberance, my thoughts continually circled back to the ominous date my uncle's pager displayed, the date that threatened to disrupt the fragile fabric of my newfound understanding. I sensed in my core that the urgency looming over that date still required confrontation. Each anecdote shared in our discussions rattled through my mind like a warning bell. Could confronting the unknown truly bring enlightenment, or would it unravel the delicate threads we had woven? As I prepared for our second roundtable discussion, determined to face this new layer of uncertainty, I reflected on the potential repercussions of our pursuits. The collective insights we had gathered were undeniably valuable. Each personal experience a piece of a much larger puzzle. But could they provide the clarity I sought? The anxiety of inaction slowly morphed into steely resolve. I had spent too long letting fate dictate the narrative of my life. It was time to wrestle back that control. In the hours leading up to the next meeting, I pored over our notes and analyses, organizing the feedback from our first session. I highlighted themes, documented narratives, and prepared my questions, each one intentionally designed to drive us deeper into the heart of mystery that surrounded our artifacts. I wanted to challenge my fellow seekers to explore further, to confront not only their stories, but the cosmos itself. Our scheduled time came, and I entered the virtual space, pulse quickening with gamified anticipation. The participants that filled the screen were familiar faces now, each one a collaborator in our quest for clarity. The banter was lively, each person eager to contribute, to share previously untold nuances of their experiences. I opened the floor, channeling the energy of the group with a question. Part of our journey requires not just understanding what has happened to us, but also how we can leverage these insights. What do we stand to gain, and what should we fear? Responses flowed like a river, a cacophony of thoughts that intertwined theories and fears. Someone proposed an exploratory process, analyzing the onset of each temporal anomaly through detailed accounts. Others suggested creating a safe space for confronting unsettling feelings regarding our predicaments. Then I shared the discomfort that persisted within me relating to the date on my uncle's pager. Frankly, I was anxious about how my life might intersect with the potential events I had begun to foresee. What if we confront our uncertainties directly? The deeper our exploration, the stronger our resolve can become, right? I questioned earnestly, gauging the group's reaction. I could see their faces reflect the weight of my words. One participant shared her own doubts about the future, a story laced with parallels to my predicament. She spoke of her own apprehensions coming to fruition before they occurred, articulating how a feeling of resignation washed over her like waves lapping against the shore, waiting for the pull of nature to guide her course. As more participants chimed in, the tension became palpable. We were grappling with more than just the mysteries of time and artifacts. We were wrestling with our very existence within time, a collaboration that sharpened our resolve to unearth light hidden in the shadows. I urged everyone to embrace these feelings, to see them as a connection to the universal narrative rather than a hindrance. With each passing moment, our discourse intensified, uncovering deeper insights about our fates and choices. I proposed that our collective energies could weave a narrative that informed and perhaps even empowered each of us, shaping us into more aware participants in this remarkable dance of time. Let's conceptualize our findings into chapters that challenge fate, offering our perspectives to those who might also feel lost in the currents of reality, I suggested. Just then, I felt a rush of urgency from the great well of knowledge we were orchestrating into form. I prompted the group. If this exploration resonates with you, if these discussions are shaping your narrative, hit that thanks button below. It supports this initiative to produce our ebook, giving us the resources needed to shine a light on each of our journeys. As I sensed the burgeoning enthusiasm around me, I was reminded of the power that lay in unity. Through the bonds created during our meetings, we were exploring not only our realities, but also forging pathways for future explorers who may one day stumble upon their own temporal anomalies. The sense of community that filled my computer screen was undeniable. We were creating something profound together. Bursting with resolve, I wrapped up our meeting with demands for clarity, but also heartfelt gratitude for the shared wisdom. We would rise together against the uncertainties that threatened us. With each gathering, I grew less anxious about the foreboding date. Instead, I embraced a deeper understanding illuminated by our combined voices, confident that confronting our realities brought us closer to unlocking the truths behind our temporal puzzles. Whether we were destined to confront fate or to transcend its boundaries, I felt a magnetic pull toward the future awaiting us, a future we could create together. In this shared adventure, as we dismantled the fears tethering us to isolation, we uncovered the possibility of weaving a narrative replete with meaning and connection. Every insight, every experience was not merely a component of fate's script. They were evolving elements contributing to a deeply wondrous exploration of time itself. Our third roundtable meeting arrived with its own unique aura, a palpable sense of anticipation cloaked in unease. Around the virtual table, a familiar cluster of faces reflected the weight of our past discussions, yet the air was charged with a new intensity, as if the universe itself was holding its breath in anticipation of our next steps. It felt as though we were on the precipice of a profound breakthrough, and I knew we had to embrace everything we had uncovered so far. In my heart, the ominous date displayed on my uncle's pager throbbed like a distant drumbeat, a call to action that echoed through the corridors of my mind. What awaited us on that day? Questions churned in my thoughts, their very existence a reminder that I could no longer shy away from the potential upheaval that could ensue. We could ultimately bring meaning to our individual stories, but it would take courage to confront whatever awaited us in the shadows. Tonight, let's take a different approach. I want to focus on how these temporal anomalies have influenced your current lives, I began, attempting to frame the discussion. How do these past encounters manifest in your everyday decisions? Have they changed your perspectives or prompted you to take actions you wouldn't have considered otherwise? There was a thoughtful pause before the conversation ignited. One participant, visibly shaken, admitted that since discovering their grandfather's old watch, which began to tick backwards, they had grown increasingly paranoid about the paths they took in life. "It's like I'm second-guessing every decision," they confessed. "I feel like every choice branches out into uncertain territories, and I'm afraid of what awaits." The vulnerability in their admission was palpable. It opened the floodgates for others. Each participant began to recount how their experiences with these artifacts had cast ripples throughout their lives, shaping relationships, career decisions, and ultimately their self-worth. As faces animated with urgency flickered across my screen, I couldn't help but notice the thread weaving through our narratives, a shared sense of urgency, a desperate longing for clarity amid the tumult of fate. We've come together with profound stories, and what better way to raise awareness and share our insights than through the ebook we've envisioned, I urged, feeling the intensity of the moment. Imagine a resource that not only captures our experiences, but also provides a roadmap for others navigating similar uncertainties. If we can outline our encounters and insights, we can shine a light on the questions many are too afraid to ask. A chorus of agreement rippled through the meeting, prompting me to outline our next steps more concretely. Let's assign chapters based on each of our powerful narratives, detailing the chronology and implications of our artifacts. With your permission, I propose we document not only the experiences themselves, but our reflections and growth as well. Nods of approval came my way, and a rush of adrenaline lit up my core. We don't just aim to share our stories, we aim to empower others facing the dark uncertainties of their realities. We write this ebook for those who have stumbled upon their own artifacts, much like we have, with no understanding of what they carry. A participant from the back chimed in, "And we can share tips, offer strategies on how to cope with the ramifications of these anomalies. We can illustrate how the collective power of our stories can help others navigate their narratives." Exactly. This treasure trove of insights could be invaluable, I reinforced. To make it happen, I urge our community to keep supporting our initiative. Your ongoing contributions through the thanks button allow us to bring this ebook to life, creating a tangible testament to our journey together. As the meeting progressed, we carved our narrative into form, honoring the weight of our shared experiences. It was thrilling to visualize our ebook as a beacon guiding those lost in the labyrinth of time, just as we had once been. Its pages would hold our stories, illuminating the unknown paths ahead. "Let's aim for the release date to correspond with the date of my uncle's pager," I stated, my voice steady despite the tension caught in my throat.
Let that day mark not just an ending for fear, but a beginning of light, knowledge, and transformation. This brought an unexpected hush as everyone took a moment to absorb the implication behind my words. We were not simply preserving memories. We would actively confront the dread that day embodied. This alignment was no coincidence. It served to empower us, transforming a target of fear into a moment of strength. As the meeting lingered until schedules became the enemy, I allowed myself to feel the connection growing among us. Each person had not only championed their story, but had become a reflection of the whole, each voice carrying a vital thread that would eventually support our final narrative. With our discussions wrapping up, the intensity that had charged the atmosphere shifted into a palpable sense of resolve. All horror was tempered by knowledge, the urgency monologue within our collective hearts, transforming uncertainty into collaborative artistry. As screens flickered off one by one, I reflected on how our paths had danced together and intertwined. The past no longer held rigid dominion over us. In the unfurling narrative of our stories, a new understanding emerged, a revelation binding us together across time's intricate seams. Releasing our shared truths into the world was not just an act of courage, it was a reclamation of our destinies. We would emerge from the shadows come that fateful day, armed with knowledge, wielding the shared wisdom of countless experiences. Together, we would step forward and create a new reality where we held the brush to paint our destinies, unfettered by the confines of fate. It was time to buckle our seatbelts and turn the page toward uncertain yet thrilling horizons. The day marked on my uncle's pager finally arrived, heavy with implications that reverberated through our shared narratives. I awoke with a pulse of anticipation, the reality of our impending confrontation settling on my chest like a weight. Today would no longer just be a date. It could signify empowerment, reclaiming a narrative we had allowed to govern us for far too long. As I logged into the forum, a surge of energy coursed through me. Comments overflowed from participants eager to share their thoughts about the day. Their reflections mirrored my own feelings of apprehension, but also a growing sense of unity. We were collectively standing on the precipice of understanding and challenging fate. Tonight, let's gather together and acknowledge the significance of this date, I typed, my heart racing. We've transformed fear into knowledge. This meeting is about celebrating our journeys and reinforcing that we're not alone in this. As faces filled my screen, I felt the palpable mix of anxiety and hope among us. We began sharing stories, each account resonating with the same haunting echoes of uncertainty. I felt a kinship in our struggles and triumphs, and soon it became clear that today could be a powerful turning point. Let's light a virtual candle today, symbolizing our commitment to face whatever lies ahead and to stand together, I suggested, watching as participants nodded and prepared to join me. With our candles flickering on screen, the weight of our solidarity enveloped us. This isn't just about confronting this day, but embracing it as a new beginning, I continued, my conviction gaining momentum. Let's capture this moment and share it in our ebook, the first chapter, illuminating our transformation from fear to empowerment. With nods of agreement and encouragement, everyone contributed ideas and reflections, giving birth to a collaborative roadmap. We plan to document our experiences, intertwining our stories into a resource for those grappling with similar uncertainties. If our journey resonates with you, remember to hit that thanks button below. Your contributions will help us bring our ebook to life and shine light on our experiences for others. In that moment of collective energy, I felt the date on my uncle's pager transform. What once signified dread and uncertainty had become a symbol of awakening, a united front against the shadows of fate that sought to bind us. As our meeting drew to a close, I reflected on the strength we had forged together. Today was a pivotal step in redefining our destinies, armed with courage and the wisdom of shared narratives. With a renewed sense of purpose, we turned the page, ready to embrace the uncertain yet thrilling horizons that awaited us. The journey was just beginning, but we would walk it together, painting our lives with the strokes of reclamation and hope.